Okay, so you want to fund your startup. And funding your startup, it should be pretty straightforward. It should be pretty easy, right? Let's just, you know what? You should do the smart thing. Just go ask your rich uncle, right, who owns that real estate business and that multimedia conglomerate over there, right down the street. Yeah, you know him, right around the corner. Just ask him for a small $1 million. You know what? It won't even hurt him. Just ask him for a $5 million loan. You can rough it out with that, right? That's you can make it through. It's not much, but you'll make it happen. You'll make it happen. Oh, wait, no. Oh, you can't just do that? You know what? That makes sense because most of us can't do that. Right? Let's come back to reality for a second. People make it sound like investing in a small business, investing in a startup, they see, one report come out, or another report about this startup and that startup. Like it's very easy, right? Like it's happening all the time. The fact is, less than 10% of those businesses that are even getting to the point where they're working with, going to be in front of the right people, receive funding to keep going, right? They might get some initial funding to get off the ground, but just to keep going and to really see this grow takes time, takes effort. And a lot of companies, a lot of startups don't get it. A lot of small businesses, they don't get those loans. So there are real opportunities, if you know them, that are out there to fund your business. And many of those new or innovative ways have become the new traditional ways, right? But there are multiple paths to funding your business. And that's what we're going to go over today. Because we don't all have the uncle that can give us $5 million. Hell, most of us don't even have an uncle that can give us $5,000. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. That's reality. That's the world we live in. But if you truly believe in what you're doing, you're going to find every alternative. You're going to find every path. And that's the whole purpose of this podcast, is to help you out in identifying opportunities that are out there, because you put the time in with the business plan, you put the time in with the marketing strategy, you put the time in, we're doing some, research for the product, research for your service. Well, now put the time in and let's find out how to fund this thing and make it possible and make it and bring it into reality. And then hopefully you could be that rich uncle one day. But frankly, if I'm the rich uncle, I'm keeping my money. Anyway, whole nother thing. Side note, let's get to it. There are many different ways to start your business, right? And there's many different ways to fund your business and to get that initial funding to get you off the ground. Sadly, a lot of people overlook some of the more traditional routes just because they have a misunderstanding. They're not working with an expert. They're not working with a partner to help them understand what's really necessary to navigate those areas, such as loans and there are many cases business grants and opportunities like that. Nowadays, you hear people talking mostly about venture capital, right? And what has become the new norm, which is to use some form of crowdfunding to help support your business and getting it off the ground. But what we're going to go over the different areas that you could fund your business. And there's nothing wrong with using a combination of, of the sort, using a combination of all of these. But you really should understand the pros and cons and the ins and outs of each one. Now, there's a lot more in-depth information. This is kind of just an entry to these particular areas and for you to find and identify the best ways for your business to get funded and to grow. I'll start off by saying this though, nothing ever beats sweat equity. Okay, the money, the time, the energy and effort you put into it in the beginning. Always look at it like this. And don't even go to a bank. Don't go to an investor. This is, of course, from my experience and my opinion. But if you're going to put the time into a business plan, into a basic marketing strategy, into some type of business model, and identifying the service, the solution that you're bringing to the world, don't worry about funding. Literally don't worry about funding. As I always told people when they're looking at their business plan, especially or specifically the aspect of their business plan, when they're looking at the operations and the business model, look at it as if you had a blank check first, right? And the reason why is because you want to focus on, hey, if I had the money, this is what I could deliver. If I had the time, the energy, the resources, this is what I could deliver. That's what I want to deliver. Because if you look at it from that perspective, you're not focusing on, well, I only have this amount of money, so we're going to cut back here, we're going to cut back there, we're not going to do. If you had the resources, what is the end result? What is that end product, service, solution that you're bringing to the world and why. What value is it bringing? Then take a step back. Now, this is what your ultimate goal is. Okay, now we have to apply, well, how long is it going to take to get there? What are the resources you need to get there? How much money? Because you want to put the time, effort, and energy into, I want to create this beautiful, valuable solution to people's problems. The product that people are looking for, the service people are looking for. That sweat equity, when you're researching and identify what's the need of the market, what's the demand, how many competitors are out there, what they aren't doing that you can do and you can bring to the table. Those are the little things. And when I'm saying little, I mean being very sarcastic. Those are the little things that will change that conversation when you do speak to an investor, when you do speak to a bank, when you can show projections, when you can show opportunities. And that's sweat equity. No one else is doing that. Now, the financial aspect of this first stage of funding, buying your domain, registering your business, investing in a professional business plan. Don't let nobody fool you. Don't let nobody fool you. Okay? You don't want to limit your opportunities. You don't want to limit your options. You don't want to be the guy that says, well, you know what? I didn't want to put the money into, or I didn't want to put the time into writing a business plan. So I have this one sheet of the breakdown of the business, and I'm going to take it around to people. And then when that moment comes, I brought the story up before. When that moment comes where you have the right person in front of you and they just say, hey, send me your business plan. Just send it to me. You don't know who this person is. You don't know you don't know what that person can do for you. Or worse yet, you know what that person could do for you. You know who that person is, and they're asking for it. And unfortunately, I've said this, used this story before. And sadly, when the person took 2 to 3 weeks to get what they needed over to that person, to the person who wanted the business plan, and then, that opportunity has passed. Frankly, I'm acting like I don't even know you now because I asked you for something you should have been ready for. Don't wait and don't hold off so you can get ready. Be ready. And there's many great ways to be ready. Put in that sweat equity first. Listen to the podcast right now. This is part of that equity because you're about to do a little research. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over loans. We're going to go over grants, and we're going to go over different investment options. Right. So how these options and which option is best for you based on where you are with your business and what type of business that you have. And there's many, many different platforms out here, many, many different resources. So this is just a starting point, but at least we'll give you the links that you need to get out here and research and identify which ones work best for you. So first, we'll start off with startup and the different forms of startup funding that's out there. We'll give you some very specific platforms to check out and learn from. Then crowdfunding, which has become the new norm for many businesses. And the great part about it, a lot of established businesses are using this for new products, new services, new MVPs that they're pushing out there. And of course, the more traditional, the loans and the grants, opportunities that are out there when we come back. All right, now, y'all. So let's get into it, the different forms and the different platforms that are out here for us to fund our businesses. We're going to first start off with startup funding, right? We're going to start off with the platforms that are out here. Some have been around for quite some time. Some are pretty relatively new. They've only been around maybe for about 4 or 5, barely 10 years, but are working with some major movers and major players in the world of private equity and even venture capital. Let's start off with StartEngine. Now, StartEngine, it's interesting because StartEngine actually purchased a platform that I used to review a lot and did a few investments on called Seed Invest. And Seed Invest was around for quite some time. StartEngine purchased them a few years back. But you have major startups, right? And companies that are challenging some of the big boys in different industries using StartEngine to connect with investors. The whole purpose of these platforms, right, is to give you a secured network to say these are, opportunities for first-time investors or seasoned investors to put money into startups that have already put in that sweat equity, already kind of established themselves in some way, some shape or form, right? Because you will have to go through review and you will have to, be accepted into these platforms. But it gives you a level of security as both an investor and as a startup. And that's one thing I must admit that I like about, what we're seeing as the new norm when it comes to investing. Because yeah, somebody could come to you one day and say, hey, I have a great idea for a business, or vice versa. You can go to somebody and say, hey, I have a great idea for a business. Okay, yeah. And they may even have a business plan in hand. But this way, these people have been investing in some major corporations or what have become major corporations. I'll give you an example. Two well-known platforms or well-known community platforms and social media platforms have used and still are leveraging StartEngine. You have Fanbase, which is challenging some of the top corporations and businesses in the social media world. And then you have Discord. And if you have a podcast or you are working with any other form of content creation, both of these platforms or both of these companies are leveraging the StartEngine platform to work with investors. You could be one of those startups. You could be potentially one of those investors as well. StartEngine has been around, like I said, for a shorter period of time than two of the other examples I'm going to give you. I'll tell you right now, use that link in the description, check them out, and see if that's the platform for you to connect with investors. You have a great network of investors there. You have a lot of education you can learn from it. That's one of the cool parts about that. And also, you can even invest in StartEngine, which I thought was pretty cool. I thought that was a nice little touch on their platform. Next up is Wefunder. Now, Wefunder is unique in a couple of areas compared to StartEngine and then the last example I'm going to give you. Number one, Wefunder is a public benefit corporation. Now, public benefit corporation, it's actually a certification and it falls under and it's a type of for-profit corporate or entity where their goals are making a positive impact on society, and they actually get a certification for this. Now, we've covered a couple of other public benefit companies and corporations on past episodes when we've checked out a couple of web hosting businesses and a few of the self-publishing corporations that are also public benefit corporations. It's really important to some people, and I can understand why. The idea is they want to make a positive change. They want to make a positive overall, impact on different aspects of society, from economic development. This is what a public benefit corporation is looking to do. They're looking to bring change and operate in a reasonable and sustainable manner, right? And do public good. Now, the way they go about it is going to always be unique and specific to the way they want to execute this, and what particular areas that they want to impact the most, once again, will be specific to the corporation. But if this is part of your business, if this is an aspect and a unique offering or value that you want to bring, to your customers and to your target audience, you might want to align with an investment or with an investment platform, at least, that does the same. That's why I bring this up and I focus on this, because one of their key focuses is to kind of be that connection for angel investors. Now, the difference with an angel investor than other forms of investment, an angel investor typically only wants equity, right? They typically want a preferred stock if you get an IPO, but they typically just want equity and a little level of ownership. They don't necessarily want to be involved in the operations, the day in and day out, board of directors, and all those key aspects. They just want to say, hey, you know what? Here's some money. Here's some seed money to get started. Maybe they become a regular investor on a regular basis. But they don't want to see necessarily, hey, I don't want to be in front of every single, business meeting that you have, or I don't necessarily need to be a part of every strategy session that you have, And that is a great way to connect, once again, is this what I need for my business? Because maybe I don't need that corporate leadership. Maybe I don't need that level of involvement from an operations standpoint. Let's keep it a bean. I just need the money. I just need the money to get this thing off the ground, or better yet, to get it to the next level. Because just like with StartEngine, Wefunder, they're going to have to be reviewed. They're not just taking any business. You have to, it's a couple things you have to make sure that your business qualifies for, which makes perfect sense, because once again, you want to make sure that you are on your P's and Q's, as they say. But these investors are from all over, and they have been around for a while. This is one of the benefits with a platform like Wefunder. It's got more traction, more experience, more history for you to review and see if it's the right fit for you. But once again, if your target is to be, doing of social good and focusing on, making a real impact in your community, and you want to align your brand, your business with that type of investment community and that type of investment platform, Wefunder, go for it. I've used it fantastic. I've used it for one of my businesses. Gonna call that out now. I've used it for one of my businesses. Just help clients get some documents ready for those platforms. But once again, great platform. Cannot stress it enough. Check them out. They are a really good option to start off when it comes to using one of these startup platforms. Finally, micro ventures. Now, micro ventures, I would say, is kind of taking it to the highest level when it comes to a level of the vetting process, when it comes to the review process. Although the base level of investment, if you're an investor or looking to be an investor on one of these platforms, is at the same level as Wefunders, as low as $100. The great part about this platform, if you are allowed and you are able to add your business, I mean, these are some heavy hitters. Okay. I mean, companies like OpenAI, Stripe. I mean, you ain't getting bigger. I mean, they're bigger. Don't get me wrong, but those are some of the biggest names in the world of everything that we're doing right now. When it comes from e-commerce, when it comes to Mark Tech, when it comes to research and development and future IPOs at some point. Micro ventures do have a good history. Been around for a while. Worth checking out as a micro venture marketplace. It's worth looking into to see what's a part of their portfolio and to be potentially added to their portfolio. And also, best part about it, tons of education. Out of the three, this is one of my favorites when it comes to education, just learning how to invest and what that world looks like if you're not used to it. When it comes to equity crowdfunding, when it comes to startup funding, when it comes to having your business be a part of one of those marketplaces and part of those communities, they have one of the most robust education blogs and knowledge base that I've seen on a lot of sites. I've often mentioned why I care for platforms like Stash because of that. It's really good knowledge base that helps users, educating users. Whenever I see a platform that educates users and helps users, those are the platforms I'm more aligned with working with and utilizing, just because we live in a world where there's so much information out here. You don't know what's accurate, what's right, what's wrong, or just better yet, what's even, when it comes to accuracy, what's new, what's been updated. We see this all the time, right? Some outdated information or information that might need a little tweaking because frankly, they were off on some of the facts and led them down the wrong path. So you're like, well, do I follow this blog or do I follow, that podcast, whatever it may be? The best part about this platform, just like I said, brought up Stash, kind of jumping around to different platforms because these are the platforms that really illustrate this and do this the best. Shopify is another one of those platforms. Really great, solid knowledge base. Lulu Direct, another great knowledge base and education blog. So micro ventures, if you haven't been a part of one of these, investment marketplaces, this is a great one to start with. And that's one of the best reasons why, is it can educate you and get you a better understanding of how equity crowdfunding works. So we went through those platforms. And like I said, those are more specifically for the startup aspect of things and the startup aspect of, using a crowdfunding, private equity crowdfunding platform. But let's be sure we have a clear understanding and distinction between the two. Now, I said those are specifically for crowdfunding, more so for the startup side. Like I said, the Stripes, the Discords, fan base, platforms like that. Flipping that around, we're going to look at crowdfunding. And I was going to say more traditional crowdfunding, right, which has become kind of the norm for doing things. But the crowdfunding platforms that you're more accustomed to, but they could also be the best alternative for helping your business. Now, once again, sweat equity first. I'm going to keep coming back to this. Because just like with the private equity crowdfunding that we were just talking about, you got to have something. You got to have business plan. You got to have something to show me. You can't just say, hey, I have a great idea for a business. Right. This is why I focused a lot on in the past, and I've done this with clients in the past as well. But in past episodes of the show, why it's important just to even have a website. Like if you show somebody, hey, I'm willing to take the time to just at the very least business plan, marketing strategy, website to showcase what the product is going to look like, mock-ups. That's showing somebody that you're willing to take the time to put into what you say you're going to do once you get there, $100,000, $100 million, whatever it may be. Right. If you come to me, you're asking for if you ask for $10,000 and you just say, hey, I have an idea off the top of my head, but you've written down nothing, not a thing. I mean, Go make yourself a business plan in Microsoft Word, Google Doc real quick, bro. Let's just keep it a bean, right? If you're not willing to invest in yourself, how dare you ask someone to invest in you? Let's just straight up. These platforms, these are going to be better platforms if you're like, I don't want a board of directors necessarily. I don't want to have someone owning 20% of my company. But I do want to work with a community. I do want to show the impact. Just kind of like I said, that, that's a certified B corporation. I do want to show the impact I can bring to my community. And I want to build with my community. I want to be a part of my community, right? It's not about being separated from them. It's part of being a part of them in bringing value to them. That's why these so-called traditional crowdfunding platforms might be the better route for you. Especially the more creative you get. Right? But that doesn't mean, don't get me wrong, not to say you can't use the other ones. But I would say definitely the more creative you are, these may be the best alternatives for you. So we're going to start off with the big kahuna. Probably the biggest name out of all these platforms I'm going to mention is the biggest name. You know them, I know them. You've probably invested in a few. I know I invested in quite a few. Kickstarter, right? We all pretty much know Kickstarter, right? They are kind of the OG. To be real with you, they're the OG of this crowd funding platform thing, and frankly, there's a good reason why, right? I will say this: there've been a few other platforms that are around the same time period. They didn't kick off, for lack of a better term, like Kickstarter, for good reason, for damn good reason. Okay, Kickstarter has improved. I know people have their opinion, and you can look online. There's going to be a bunch of, but that's with anything, right? There's a positive, and negative. I will say this, Kickstarter, I would say damn near every year over year has improved. And I respect that as a business owner, as a founder, as an innovator, as an entrepreneur, any title you want to give it, because that's where a lot of people fall off. They don't improve year over year. And I'm talking about even the biggest corporations, right? We've seen Todd McFarlane, fantastic innovator, comic book artist. We've seen De La Soul. We've seen Spike Lee. We've seen magazines. We've seen all kinds of brands work with Kickstarter because they just continuously improve. Here's what they mostly improve. And I do respect, and like I said, going back to respecting how they constantly update and evolve. The platform is easier and easier. Educating both the investor and the potential business owner and the entrepreneur. And they're open to a lot of different businesses. One of my favorite aspects also about Kickstarter is the availability the availability of the platform in different countries. Because some of these platforms, you can't just jump in and be from just any country in some cases because of, legal regulations and restrictions, which makes perfect sense to protect the investor and also to protect the business owner, to protect the entrepreneur like yourself. But Kickstarter is available in so many different countries around the world. That's one of the things I like the most about them, because it also helps you as a business owner or as that founder to find out where your audience is. Because you might be doing something, in your neighborhood, in your town, in your state, maybe your province, but you might have a whole audience across the world that finds you on Kickstarter. And like I said, people find you. It has basically become a crowdfunding search engine. To keep it real with you, because even those others that I mentioned, the private equity marketplaces, they're not really search engines. It's really hard. It's not really searchable. Kickstarter, there's only one other platform I would consider this at the same level. The platform we'll get to next, that I would say is more of a crowdfunding search engine as well, which makes it easy to invest in. I've done a few campaigns. Once again, never as a business, posting a business or an opportunity. Worked with a few clients that needed graphics, or they needed their marketing copy updated, but Kickstarter is a fantastic option and opportunity for you. Now, the con and it's the same thing most people bring up when they have something negative to say about Kickstarter. It's the way their platform works. Maybe it's good for you, maybe it's not. They are an all or nothing. Okay? So if your campaign fails to meet the funding goal that you wanted by that duration, by that time period, you won't get any of the funding. Now, that could be good, or that could be bad. A lot of people consider it a major con, right? A major, negative about the platform. Some people use it as, hey, this is a great way for us to ensure that we're putting our best foot forward. However you want to look at it. But I will say I wouldn't be doing you justice if I didn't call that out as a potential drawback to the platform. And they have collaborated, like I said, they've collaborated with a lot of innovators, a lot of artists, a lot of musicians. I mean, every single industry has been touched. And when I say collaborated, yes, they've collaborated to where they've done, major events to showcase entrepreneurs, but they've also been the platform where these entrepreneurs have posted their projects, just like you. Great opportunity. The next one I would say, and this is another one I would consider kind of that crowdfunding search engine. Personally, this is my favorite. I've worked with clients on this platform as well, but just because, and I'll go into some of the intricacies and I'll go into some of the specifics. This platform is my favorite, and this is Indiegogo. I like Indiegogo. I've liked Indiegogo for a while because one of my first clients to ever do a crowdfunding project, they actually did on Indiegogo. And I learned so much about the way this world works, the crowdfunding world works from Indiegogo. Are you noticing a theme about education here? I like platforms that educate you. I like platforms that help you. Because you can't have all the information from day one, dude. It don't work that way. But if you're constantly challenging yourself, you're constantly pushing yourself, you gonna get it. You're gonna get it down packed. Indiegogo is a great one to do this. But with Indiegogo, I'll say this when it comes to their search. It's easy to find. And this will help you as a small business. This will help you as a startup. This will help you as a creator. Easy to find an opportunity to invest in. Easy to be found on in Indiegogo in so many different categories for so many different types of businesses. The way they've changed around that platform, just like I will say, I know this is their competitor and they probably won't like that, but hey, I don't get paid by either one of them. So they have a completely facelift of the platform. So easy to explore, so easy to discover things and opportunities, which makes it easy for people to find you. And it's wide open. So people who have YouTube channels, right? People who are starting products, maybe they reviewed, and I've seen a couple people do this. It was awesome. They've reviewed a product. They're like, man, that product could be a lot better. Let me make my own version. Let me do it my way. Put my own brand tag. And they had a little, of a social media following, a little bit of an influencer following. And they started a business. And they posted on Indiegogo. And because they had that influencer following. So they transitioned their business from being a social media influencer, from being a content marketer, to being a product designer, manufacturer, and business owner. And that's the whole point of the list we're going over. You may need alternative forms of funding, right? Like I said, you could probably have to, not probably, you most likely, you'll mix these things up at some point, right? You might go from one to another. Nothing wrong with that. You'd be a fool to turn down some money. Especially, once again, you got the rich uncle, you ain't got him, then you got to come into these platforms. Okay? So, with Indiegogo, not only does it have a really good search functionality where you can be in front of a broad pool of investors, but they also do a lot of collaborations in connecting with getting projects done. So everything from product design, digital marketing, social media outreach, graphic design. Like I said, my very first time working with a crowdfunding platform was working with a magazine on Indiegogo, and then did a few other projects with musicians, did a few other projects with another magazine that focused specifically on fashion. So, I've seen it from a few different sides. And there's so many different opportunities to work with people who are professionals. Like I said, if you need a graphic designer, web design, product design, research and development, business plans, they have a really good network. So check out Indiegogo. I would say, yeah, like I said, personally, it's my favorite, but this is giving you guys those opportunities, right? For you to identify and see the opportunities that are out there and see which works best for you. Also, one quick thing to call out. Difference, they are not an all or nothing. Okay, so that is a significant difference. But don't hold back. Do not hold back. You want to push hard for your campaign. You want to push hard for your product and service. You want to make sure you get in front of the right people. You connect with the right people. And most importantly, you are helping the people that your business is all about assisting and servicing. The final one, GoFundMe. Now, GoFundMe originally was focused on charitable donations and working with, more so doing the donation aspect, not so much as building a business, creating a business from scratch, things like that. Although they've changed that significantly over the years. I will say that has helped a lot of small businesses, a lot of startups, and they noticed that's where the best opportunity was to grow. They are still the go-to place though. If you are looking, hey, save, to help us save us our business. I don't want to see you in that position, but if you are in that position, GoFundMe is a great opportunity. I know a lot more people know of GoFundMe in that aspect. And that's why I always say it's kind of a drawback. It's kind of that brand alignment, right? This is branding 101, right? When you get so deep into a certain, a path that people just, okay, if my business is about to close its doors, it's an emergency, there's an issue going on, maybe, we need last minute repairs and we can't get a bank loan, do a GoFundMe. As opposed to saying, hey, I want to start my business from scratch. I've got only so much to put in a down payment. I could pay for products. I could pay for this and that and the other, but maybe we need these last funding dollars. Let's do a GoFundMe instead of going for maybe the business loan or maybe Kickstarter or maybe Indiegogo. So that is one thing to keep in mind, is that it is, it's gotten itself aligned more with these other crowdfunding platforms. And, once again, I would say it's a good kind of contrast if you want to get away from the whole all or nothing. You don't want to be in this real more so competitive area like a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, but Indiegogo and Kickstarter definitely have the broader network, easier to search. I've done two campaigns on GoFundMe. And, it was for not-for-profit organizations. It was helping them. It was kind of getting the word out, I did some writing for their press releases and whatnot. And they saw decent return on investment with GoFundMe. But, their other outreach that we were helping them on, their email marketing, things like that, turned out better. My experience, I've had the best experience, the best return on investment with Indiegogo. The network and the funding is there with Kickstarter. But hey, you find out what's best for you. These are 3 crowdfunding platforms you cannot go wrong with when it comes to opportunity. It's just a matter of which one fits what you're looking for best. So that's Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and GoFundMe. Now, when we come back, we're going to go over, we got to go into the more traditional route. I know. Hey, it's how most businesses get funded. But a lot of people have a misunderstanding of how these things work. And we're going to get to the bottom of some of the key areas that get missed, and that actually could be the main areas that you need to help you get your business off the ground when it comes to business loans when we come back. Okay, now, y'all, here we go. Let's get to it. Small business loans. Now, with small business loans, I think small business loans are some of the most misunderstood ways to fund your business, but just in general ways that banks work and loans work. Simply because a lot of people confuse the same aspects of a personal loan with a small business loan. I mean, there's a reason why, and I've actually heard someone ask this, and I thought about it, at that moment, but going back and doing research for this episode, it came back up was, they're like, why don't you see a lot of places where you can get small personal loans, but why don't you see small business loans all over the place? Why don't you see business loans out of a lot of these smaller financial institutions outside of banks? And it's because, and this is why, once again, why small business loans are misunderstood, is because there's maybe not higher level, but there's a different level of scrutiny and requirements from the standpoint of the institution, not necessarily the person getting the loan or the entity getting the loan, your small business, but the institution, right? Because a lot of small business loans are actually issued directly from the Small Business Administration, which is very important to understand. This is not necessarily a loan coming from the bank itself, the bank's funding. It's coming from the Small Business Administration, right? So there's a different level of requirements that institution has to go under, which a lot of them won't want to do or can't do. Not necessarily don't want to do it, but maybe they can do it. They can't meet those standards. And that's actually really good protection for you as a business owner, right? So it comes down to more so the institution, not necessarily just the loan, but the institution. So I broke it down like this. You have your regional and local banks, and then you have your multinational banks. Regional, of course, is far more broad, but a lot of regional banks, they'll have that core state, or maybe one or two states at best, and then they maybe handle a few others around them, or even provinces, right? If we're looking outside the US. Typically with your regional or your smaller, like local banks, some of these banks you may have heard of. I'm gonna just give you a few. There's a long list of them in the description of the episode. In the US, you may have heard of Cross River, Huntington, and surprisingly, even PNC. That would be considered a regional bank, or those are considered regional banks. And on the local level, for those of you maybe in Illinois, Florida, Wintrust, and for those in the New York region, Amalgamated. Those banks often tailor their services, business services, key, right? We're focusing on this, to the needs of that area. That's why you'll find banks, especially a lot of regional banks, where they have manufacturers bank, laborers bank, chemical bank, right? A lot of them were started based on the needs of the businesses that were in those areas. Now, not in all cases, but in most cases. And a lot of times they kept the name or they got absorbed. But they're tailoring what they do. They're tailoring literally their entire process to the needs of the businesses in those areas. Now, if we're getting, kind of away from the tech side for a second, because a lot of times, like when we talk about these startup platforms, that's what we're looking at. These crowdfunding platforms, we're looking at something a little more creative, more on the technical side. Here we're looking at, franchises. We're looking at the small businesses that, are going to be part of a chain potentially, but, they want to have their own branch. We're looking at a small business that maybe a coffee shop, maybe an auto repair place. But think about this when you're when you're about to look for a bank to work with. You want to work with somebody who knows what's going on in your neighborhood, what's going on in your culture, what's going on in your community, and what impacts you most. That's why a regional and a local bank is a great option to look at first, because they can do a little bit more to personalize and focus on specifically the community impact that you're going to be making. Right. So when you're looking at your business plan, when you're looking at your proposals, when you're looking at your prospectus, things like that, what are the things that will make me more attractive to a local bank to partner with? What are the things I should highlight? What are the things that they can bring to the table? And this is my experience working with a local bank. They focus a lot on partnerships. All banks do. Don't get me wrong. On a multinational level, of course, they do. But these local banks, they'll focus a lot more on those partnerships with, hey, I just want to have one location, right? I'm just trying to service this small community in this neighborhood. That multinational bank, yeah, they definitely want to partner with people. I'm not gonna say that they don't. But of course, they look at you a lot differently. Of course, if you're saying, hey, I just have this one auto repair shop, right, in this one neighborhood, hey, great, we would love to work with you. They would love your business. Don't get me wrong. Of course, they want your money. Let's just keep it real. They want your money. A local regional bank is looking at that community impact. So when you talk about potential, not saying they're going to agree to it, but you never know, potential sponsorships, opportunities to partner on events, opportunities to cross promote and advertise with one another, right? This is why you see a lot of the sponsors and the partners with local sporting franchises. They're actually the local and the regional banks, not the multinational banks. Because those local banks are looking to make a bigger impact in that community. And they know what was a better way to do that than help them with their sporting franchise or help them with the new, remodel of an arena or a stadium, or work with work with all the schools and the universities in the area. How many times have we seen that where a university, that their bank is a regional bank, a local bank? The bank may be an extension of the school, of an institution, of a university. Right. So they've already met those requirements, those SBA requirements. Right. We'll talk more about the bank loans in a minute, but we're looking at partnerships here, too, which often gets overlooked when we're talking about funding and raising capital. And I don't know why it gets missed, but it does get missed. I hear people say, oh, we got to focus on the money, which, of course, that's what you're looking at, raising capital. But you have to remember, at the end of the day, if people believe in what you believe in, that's your value, that's your customer, that's your community, that's what you're bringing to the table, they're more inclined to give you some money. Not to say the dollars don't have to make sense. Not saying that. I want to know how my money coming back to me now. Okay. And keep in mind, this is a loan that we're talking about, or these are the institutions for loans that we're talking about. We're not talking about investment capital anymore. Right? You got to pay this back as that business owner. You're the business owner. You got to pay it back. But when you're working with a partner and you guys can work out terms together, it's easy to do that when you guys share the same value. We want to rebuild this community together, or we want to keep investing in this community. We want to make sure people have jobs here. One of the best sights I've ever seen is when I saw at a local bank. This one growing up as a kid, though. And a few of the bankers, not only did they live in the neighborhood, but their kids worked in the neighborhood. Seriously, it was a drugstore across the street from the bank. One of the personal bankers, his son was a cashier at the drugstore. Now, very important to understand, that drugstore was a small business. The bank invested in that small business. That drugstore was a part of a strip mall. The bank invested in a strip mall. Almost every business in that strip mall, except for one, was strictly locally owned. And when I mean locally owned, I mean within that community. You want to be a part of those types of relationships because that rebuilds community. That's what small businesses do. That's why I care about small businesses, because that's what they do. They help families. They help people go to college. They help people get their first jobs. They help entrepreneurs get their first opportunities, their first sales, right? And building their businesses. Why not partner with someone who has those same values? Now, gave you a couple lists in the description of this episode of those major regional and local banks. Of course, these are US and Canada. But check these out. Look at the list. You never know. There could be one right down the street you don't know. Look at their website. You can find out the different opportunities that they have. Then I'm just going to briefly touch on the multinational banks, just so you can see the differentiation between the two and differences between the two. Now I'm going to touch on multinational banks so you can see the differences between the two. Big banks are big banks. There it is. No. The biggest banks, primarily, of course, because market capitalization, but market capitalization is based on their reach, okay, and how many, not only just branches that they have, but the subsidiaries that they may even own as well, the institutions that they own. Of course, it's not a shocker. If you haven't heard about at least three of these big banks, I'm kind of shocked. That would be a shocker. Of course, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and of course, Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, Agricultural Bank of China, and there's two more major banks from China. It's called the Big Four. These are multinational banks, but these are the largest banks in the world. They have tons of options and opportunities for businesses to seek investment. Here's the fundamental difference of what I just brought up about the local and the regional banks. Many of the opportunities will not be tailored to that specific area, right? Because they're not looking at it from that level. They will be specific. Now, they will be specific, of course, what they could make available in that area. In other words, in that community, in that state, based on regulations, they're going to follow the laws there. They're going to look at what they can make available. But when I say tailored offerings and services, because that same impact they're trying to make on the community isn't the same as that local bank. When those bank owners, or at least the bank managers and the general managers, right, have been a part of this community for 20, 30, 40, 50, who knows how many years. And that's where that bank started. As opposed to, no, the bank started in, a whole nother country. The CEO has never probably even heard of this state. I'm just being real. And they have offerings that can be tailored to an industry. They have offerings that can be tailored, of course, based on state, country regulations. But that's probably the extent of it. And if they are going to get involved in major events, they might be involved in some local events. But it's usually local events that get national, if not international attention, which, not knocking it. Hey, make your coin. We ain't angry at you over here, but let's keep it a bean, right? This is why when you're getting those SBA loans, you do want to look at things from that local regional perspective, because they may be able to give you the insight. And I've seen it firsthand where they can give you the insight and information of how it impacts this community directly, as opposed to some of those international, multinational banks. So one of the best aspects of getting a loan from a bank, the repayment terms. Okay. Now, when you're working with private investment, and this is multinational, this is local. When you're working with private investment, sometimes the repayment terms, if you do have terms that change up, you never know. They might want a different level of ownership. You know what I'm saying? They may want, yes, I want my initial investment back, and I want ownership. And they want a higher amount of, profit, which makes sense. They may want to pay out. There are different aspects when it comes to private investment that you won't have to deal with when you are working with a bank. Another one, this is a big one. Interest payments. Interest payments on business loans could be tax deductible. You always want to work with an accountant. You want to work with a financial advisor, but definitely work with an accountant, because there may be an opportunity to help your business save some money in this case when you start paying back your taxes. Okay? And because it's a loan, you're going to have interest payments. Of course, that does lead to some drawbacks. I would not be doing you a service if I didn't bring up some drawbacks. Okay? You typically do need collateral, right? You do have a collateral requirements. And that's why I brought up some businesses, depends on the stage of your business, depends on what type of business you have, where you may be invested in some assets that you can use as collateral. Some businesses you won't be able to do that, but there are businesses in cases where you may have equipment, you may have machinery, you may have, devices for your business, however you operate, that you could use as collateral. But you may need that. And you most likely will need that working with a bank, specifically, of course, getting a bank loan. And I brought this up. This is across the board, though. And this could be a con, but I consider this actually a pro and a con, depending upon how you want to look at it. Strict qualifications criteria. Now, some people look at that as a drawback. But you also have to keep in mind that if there is some type of qualification criteria to follow, this lets you know, okay, these are the things I have to meet, because maybe I want to start off in the startup area. That's why I say you might use multiple of these opportunities, right? Just at different stages of your business. I want to start off in the startup area so I can meet that criteria. And when I meet that criteria, I can go out and get a bigger loan, because keeping in mind, you now have established your business. You may be bringing in that regular revenue that you need, right? On a higher level. So now maybe to fulfill some purchase orders, to fulfill invoices, to take care of a new or to penetrate a new market, you need a loan so you can go out and get more employees, so you can go get more equipment, so you can get more machinery. Okay. So like I said, that could be seen as a con, but you can look at it as a pro as well. It's something to achieve. It's something to go for. It's a goal. Loans. So the reason why I brought up banks, and I said, yes, right. And I talked about the SBA loans, misunderstood. Majority of these loans for small businesses are coming from the Small Business Administration. This is why you typically only go through the banks to get these loans. You can't really go through many other financial institutions, maybe a credit union. But, business lending is very limited, and there's for good reason. It's to protect businesses. It's also to protect consumers. But there's three typical forms of that small business loan. U.S. government, SBA, typically, have different types of programs, and they rotate programs throughout the years. There's loans that are dedicated strictly to agriculture. There's opportunities and loans directed specifically for research and development and technology. New opportunities are popping up all the time. Changes administration, that impacts it a great deal as well, based on the funding and based on the opportunities that are there. We've seen some really great opportunities over the past few years. We'll see how that changes and see what happens. But you do have the standards, right? You have the 7A loan or the 504 loan. And you have microloans. When it comes to the typical loan you hear people talking about, or at least when it comes to Small Business Administration loans, to be honest, a lot of them, almost all of them that I've had experience, people talking about the 7A loan. This is the primary loan program, right? Usually for long-term financing. It's a good opportunity for small businesses. I would definitely suggest check out the link to the Small Business Administration and learn more about the 7A loans on their website. Maximum loan amount is $5 million. This is why it's the typical, because not necessarily everybody needs $5 million and paying back $5 million, depending upon the stage of their business. A lot of times they're within, range maybe $1 or $2 million at the most to get, like I said, to take that next level up. That's where a lot of people I've seen, in my experience, have taken. It's like, hey, we want to expand and we've got a good market flow. We've got good market penetration. We just need a little bit of money to get this new pieces, or not even pieces of equipment, a new location even, right? Sometimes you just have to pay out, for a 5-10 year term lease, and you need the loan just to make sure that money is coming in. That way you don't disrupt your cash flow. Like I said, different stages of your business. The 504 loans, long term, fixed rate. Once again, check out the SBA website to learn a lot more about it. Same, operate as for-profit companies, okay, and entities that are in the U.S. This is where it becomes, a little, you have to have tangible net worth of a specific amount, okay, and an average income, right, of a specific amount. And this is where, once again, it can get a little tougher to get to qualify for some of these loans. Typically, you want to start off maybe in that startup area, build the business, get it to a certain point, then go out and pursue loans. It may even pursue private investment as well, but you have to identify what works best for you. Finally, are microloans. These are loans of $50,000 or less. Some cases can be used for nonprofit. Some cases, very, very selective. Got to meet that criteria. And it's provided through intermediary lenders, not necessarily like the 504 and the 7A. The SBA provides funds specifically designated to intermediary lenders. So you have to go to an approved lender. Once again, they have to meet certain criteria. This protects you as that business owner. They have a full list, they have full opportunities on their website so you can identify what works best for you. Funny thing, and I brought up how the programs change and how many opportunities come and go, but we've seen a surge over the past few years. We've seen a surge in lending to small businesses. Okay. And actually, one of the biggest surges and the most money awarded to small businesses happened just in the past 2 years. So if you were questioning, you were wondering, you were considering, look at these opportunities. Like I said, you might start off in the startup stage, go for the crowdfunding, get the business off the ground, get yourself established, and then transition at some point to go and start pursuing loans or a particular loan to get yourself to the next stage. This is why a business plan from the very beginning will help you so much, because it would tell you, hey, by year 2 or year 3, this is where I want to be. And now this is the type of funding we're going to pursue if we don't have the cash flow level that we want. Contingency plan is if we are the cash flow we want, then maybe we'll go another round of private investing. But maybe we can elevate that private investing. Maybe we'll be ready and we can submit and we'll be accepted to StartEngine. Maybe you weren't accepted to StartEngine the first time. It can happen. It's okay. But an opportunity is an opportunity. You'll never know if you don't try. But always, as I've said it before, I keep saying it, I'll always say it. Always put yourself in a position to win. Always put yourself in a position to win. So with that, we went over a form private equity, specifically going over crowdfunding private equity. Crowdfunding platforms, specifically the biggest names in the game and the ones you could trust the most, and the ones that I myself have, worked with clients on, but these are also some of the most trusted platforms by entrepreneurs all throughout the world. And then went over at a high level different areas of small business loans. More details about each of these formats is in the description of this episode. So you can look into StartEngine, you can look in SBA loans, you can look in a lot more in detail and find out what works for best for your business right now or wherever your best business is going. When we come back, we're going to go into what to read. We haven't had a what to read. We haven't had a book of the episode in a few episodes. We've been, looking at some experts in different fields and their different forms of content. But in this case, we're getting right back to what to read. I got 2 suggestions for you, 2 recommendations for you. Both of these recommendations I'll call out right now. I would say go for both of them, of course. I read both of them, own both of these books. I'll get more into detail. I'll get more into detail when we come back. The book of this episode is Secrets of Sand Hill Road by Scott Cooper. I can't remember who suggested this book. I bring that up because I would love to say thank you. I would love to say thank you. Was not expecting, based on the topic, I was not expecting to be such a, for lack of a better term, easy read. I use this term once in a while. Easy to digest. Right. Sometimes when it's a topic that can be a little dense and, just to be honest, kind of boring in some cases, right, depending upon how it's delivered, they could lose you. They could lose you in the message. They could lose you in the feel, the vibe, the energy, the story, okay, of the overall message, the story that they're trying to convey, and the message that they want to get you to really take hold of. This book doesn't do that. This book doesn't lose you at all. It gives you insight to a world that you don't see often. You hear here and there about, but I hate to say it, we get a lot of the One aspect we get the negative side of things. Another aspect we only get the glamorous. We don't get the real. And I brought this up from the very beginning about how a lot of us don't know how many startups are out there trying, vying, fighting for these dollars and actually getting turned down. We think, oh my God, this startup popped up, this startup popped up. Now, every startup, no, don't work that way. And people think, okay, I'm going to go straight for venture capital and not worry about a loan. Not worry about putting in the time and the energy and building the business and building a customer base, getting a loan. And then when we get to a certain point, maybe we go for private investing. A lot of people, because they look at the glamorous side of things, they don't look at the real. Why most venture capitalists will only invest in one startup within one business category. Very important, very critical to understand. And this book will tell you why. Not necessarily that it happens, but why it happens. Did you know that? So it means if they're focusing on one social media platform, they're focusing on one social media platform. Why one of the most important, if not the most important factor to securing and raising venture capital, like I said, it's not necessarily you need the customer base right now in some aspects, right? It's where do you want to go? What's the value you're bringing? What are you doing? What are you changing? What's the story you're telling? That's critical. When you have investors that become part of day-to-day operation. Like I said, maybe you want the angel investor who's hands off. But what happens when you have that investor, you have that investment group that wants to be very much involved in the operations? This book gives you all of that. When I first read it, I was like, I could see this. I could see certain things that just made perfect sense and kind of connecting the dots. Because, like I said, you only see one aspect or whatever aspects people want to show you of a particular world, right? We never get the full story until we start talking to people, and we still don't get the full story. But the insights in this book, I wanted to go back. And after the third and fourth time reading, I was like, oh, this needs to be a book that one day, hopefully, I can suggest. When I was first starting to create the podcast, it's like, I want to find a way to fit this book into an episode. So when I was thinking about this particular episode, I was like, this is the perfect book to start off with, because although we're not in the book is not talking about small business loans, and it's not talking about strictly just funding, but it gives you an idea of what's going on and exactly how venture capitalists decide where they're going to invest, how much they're going to invest, and how entrepreneurs, how our community can get the best deals potentially. And of course, building on relationships. I always come back to relationships. I talked about it with bank. It's the same thing with building a community on a crowdfunding platform. It's the exact same aspect. Building relationships. Relationships mean everything. Fantastic book. Like I said, really easy. It's really easy to read in the sense of you can breeze right through it. So take your time and digest what's being laid out for you. Take your time and really get the most out of this meal. Okay? Because it's a good one. It's a solid one. After you check out some of those links in the description of the episode, check out the SBA website. Look at the different crowdfunding platforms. You know what? Have this book. Maybe have it going on if you have the Audible version. Have a link to the paperback, but check out the hard copy or check out the Audible, whichever works better for you. As I've mentioned before, the majority of the books I have, they're mostly paperback. But when I got my Audible, subscription, I just went to town and just bought a bunch of books. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm carrying thousands of books right now. No, you know what I'm saying? It does not hurt my back. As you're looking over the different loan opportunities, as you're looking over the different banks that are out there from the links in the description, as you're looking over the different platforms for crowdfunding and which one works for you, have this book right there. Check it out. And think about what elements from this type of funding and this form of funding can you take there when you want to build out those relationships, when you want to get the most out of an opportunity. Look at your competition that's there. And if they're going to invest in this business that's also in my industry, how can I stand out and how can I be a better and more attractive investment? Secrets of Sand Hill Road by Scott Cooper. Check it out. Let me know what you think. And like I said, with this episode, we had two options for you, or two opportunities for you. I would say definitely check them both out. Start off with Scott Cooper. But this one, boy. Now, I was not suggested this book. I was not recommended this book. I found this one on my own because I had definitely heard of one of the authors. 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel with Blake Masters. Now, some of you guys may know. Some of you may not know. Peter Thiel, well-known investor, well-known personality. Not going to go farther than that because it's unnecessary. One thing cannot be denied here, though. When it comes to making some of the most important investments in helping to bring about some of the most important corporations that we've had in the last 30 years, yeah, can't deny it. Man's been a part of them. 0 to 1. The subtitle is Notes on Startups or How to Build the Future. I bring that up because I normally don't bring up the subtitle unless it's to completely differentiate it from a book with a similar title. The breakdown or the notes that he shares on the businesses he's worked with, the people he's worked with. And this is about literally from 0 to 1. This is literally bringing something from nothing to something and how to build it. And if you're looking at it from strictly a startup standpoint, which, this is a great book for aspiring entrepreneurs who want to make a genuine impact with whatever they're bringing into the world. Focusing on improvement, focusing on development, focusing on going beyond your expectations. This could become a little handbook for that. And I say little, once again, just very similar to Secrets of Sand Hill Road. Very easy read, very light read. And that's kind of at the core if you get what I'm laying down here. It's about the story, making it compelling, making it concise and impactful. 2 books for entrepreneurs, 2 books before pursuing investing, 2 books to help you building out not only the team, but building out the dream, making it a reality, and giving you insight into a world that you hear about here and there, but these are from the people who've lived it. These are from people who connect the dots. These are from people who walk the walk. Secrets of Sand Hill Road, 0 to 1. Check out both these books and let me know what you think. Let me know your take. And if, as always, I don't get enough of them. I've only gotten 2. And one book I've gotten a suggestion for in the past episode that we're going to apply it to another. We're going to apply it for what to read for a good episode coming up. But let me know, what book do you have that you would recommend? Since this is the topic of raising capital, what's a book that you would recommend about raising capital? Give it to me. Let's get it. Let's make it happen. I would love your suggestion. Drop a link and let me hear what it is. So with that, those are the books of the episodes, or the episode, the episode. And now, of course, I owe you something. I gotta give you the takeaways. You know what I'm saying? So, of course, I told you about the links to learning more about the SBA loans, learning more about these different platforms for crowdfunding and startup funding for your small business. As always, no matter who it's from, and I'm going to say for myself, but no matter who you're talking to, they're not suggesting that you speak with an accountant, that you speak with a financial advisor, that you speak with an actual financial professional. Then don't listen to them. And I'm telling you right now, I've stressed it in multiple episodes. Good friends for years with 2 past CPAs that I've worked with. Work with a CPA, work with a financial advisor, work with a lawyer, right, for the actual true legal advice and financial advice that you would need before entering any types of contracts and any type of programs such as these. These are just, of course, recommendations of things that I've done in the past and happy to help and share along the way. But I would love to know, what opportunities you take advantage of. And hey, hopefully your business is on Kickstarter next time I go in there, Indiegogo. But I owe you something. So got a checklist for you. I've mentioned this before when it comes to build or buy, when we talked about websites, and it's very similar. Do you pursue an investor or not? Just a kind of a checklist for yourself, things to look over for yourself, to come up with an idea of, is it best for me to pursue investment or not at this stage of my business? Now, this is going to be adjusted. You can fill in you can fill it in, you can change it around. This is just based on an exercise that a past client of mine has done, and I wanted to share it with you guys. I thought it would be awesome to see, what you guys come away with it, because it's a good way to see it. When you see it on paper, when you see things like on a poster or something right in front of you, and I would definitely suggest posting it on the wall of your office or wherever you're working, when you're working on your business plan, when you're working on, going through these different websites, and you're saying, well, you know what? I just finished listening to Secrets of Sand Hill Road because Aaron suggested it. Now, let me go over this checklist. And as you look at the checklist, you're looking at, this is the stage of my business. Should I, do the Kickstarter? No, I'm not ready for that. Should I pursue the business loan? No, I'm not ready for that. Let me go back and let me work on my marketing plan because I want to get my customers up, because I want to have some reviews. Maybe I want to have recommendations. Maybe, you see what I'm saying? See where that's going? You can see where your business stage is at. Also, a free tool for you, the Business Model Canvas. I love Business Model Canvas. Brought this up before as well. It's a great tool for you to kind of summarize the ins and outs of your business in a one pager that looks great. Even give you instructions on how to make one. I love Canva. Canva is a great platform to use to make one. You use the Canva whiteboard. It's the best tool on Canva to make a business model canvas. And with that, that's this episode. So you've got links to not only SBA loans, not only StartEngine and the other platforms for crowdfunding your startup and your small business. To check those out, see which platforms work best for you. You also, I can't stress it enough. Secrets of Sand Hill Road, great insights to this world of working with VCs as entrepreneurs, but then also 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel and Blake Masters. Learning from and listening to the people who've been involved in some of the most innovative corporations our world has seen in a generation. Can't beat it. You're going to learn a lot, and you can apply it to what you want and the impact you want to make on the world as well. But I'll also have for you a summary of the book. Fantastic author on Medium. I stress how great Medium is to find great authors and listen to great thoughts and insights and analysis on different topics. A fantastic summary of the book, her own take of 0 to 1. Check that out. That's also on Medium. And of course, links to the free gifts for you guys to make the best decisions. Hopefully, the checklist, the business model canvas for your business. If you don't have a business model canvas, but you have a business plan, it's easy to take a lot from that business plan, put it into that business model canvas. So with that, guys, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Ambition Show podcast. I've been your host, Aaron Muhammad. This has been episode 43, Raising Capital. Thank you guys for joining us. I would love to hear what suggestions you have for books as well. Drop those in the comments. Take it easy. Best of you and yours. Peace.